Chairman, we're now live.
Thank you very much, Mark. Welcome to the virtual meeting of the Executive Scrutiny Committee at the London Borough of Hillingdon. This virtual meeting is also being broadcast simultaneously on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon London. For the purpose of this committee is to scrutinise decisions made by the Cabinet who have just finished their meeting tonight. My name is Councillor Higgins and I'm the Chairman of this meeting. So just housekeeping, please. Before we start, please can you ensure your mobile phones are off or on silent. Please keep all your microphones muted when not speaking and then unmute to speak. As a chairman, I will call you those to speak during the meeting and Mark will indicate those to me because I'm on an iPad and not on a computer. If any councillor leaves the virtual meeting at any part way through the period of time, e.g. lost connection, I will continue the meeting unless we are not quorate, which is 4 councillors. Can I have the attendance roll? Councillor Riley.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Wayne Bridges.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Nick Dennis.
Good evening, Chairman, and I'm also present.
Councillor Simon Arnold.
Good evening, Chairman. I am present.
Councillor Peter Curling, the Labour lead.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Councillor Peter Money.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Councillor Kerry Prince.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Tony Little. Our
Present.
Thank you. And Mark Barrett from Democratic Services.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the agenda. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Chairman, all members are present.
Fantastic. Any declarations of interest in the matters before this meeting?
Councillor Bridges is waving.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. I declare non-pecuniary interest in agenda item 11. My daughter attends Oakwood School.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Do we receive and agree the minutes of the last meeting? I'll keep silence as yes. Great. To confirm, there is 10 public reports that were considered by Cabinet today and 3 reports in private. We'll go straight on. Item 5, follow up the matters of the clarification of the last meeting. At the last meeting, members sought clarification on a number of points in the reports and which were circulated prior and also on the agenda. They are for noting comments and not for further clarification. Has anybody got any comments? Mark, can you advise, please?
Chairman, I can't see any members wishing to comment.
Thank you very much. Item 6 goes through that this is a committee through the reports considering the Cabinet tonight to see if there's any comments, clarifications or needed for potential for a call-in. After we have gone through each of the public items, we will then move into a private session where the live lead will be cut to deal with part 2. Okay, we'll go straight into the report. Item 5, COVID-19 Hillingdon Local Outbreak Control Plan. Does anybody have anything on this?
Councillor Money, Chairman.
Councillor Money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a bit more information, if possible. If we go down to paragraph 6, do we have any more information on the care homes? How many visits have been made to ensure compliance? And also, we were recently made aware that Cedar House Care Home in Harefield was the subject of a CQC visit, which indicated that infection control was inadequate. What support has been given by Hillingdon, if you know that? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Mark, do you have any updates on those items?
Chairman, it's something if the committee wishes, we can go away and find out, or the committee can. I can go away and find out from the committee.
Yeah, I don't see there's any problem. Does anybody have any objections to it?
No objections, Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Little wished to speak as well. Oh, Councillor Money has a follow-up.
Yeah, fine.
Sorry, yeah, just a quick follow-up. Of the care homes that we have in Hillingdon, do we have an incidence rate of the virus in each location? Is that something you're able to share with us as well?
That I would not know, Councillor Money. We will. We will.
I mean, I assume we have that
we'll ask the
information.
first. I think if we ask the first question that you asked, then that element will also become clearer. I thought.
Chairman, what I would add is that I think this item will be going to the next Social Care, Housing and Public Health Policy Overview Committee, this outbreak plan, with the officers that will know much more about this for members to ask questions. So if there's we can go away and find out the points you've just mentioned today, but if there are any further questions, members can feed that into that process.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Little.
Thank you, Chairman. Two questions. One is are there any arrangements for sharing good practice between schools in dealing with issues that arise out of COVID? And the second one is, do we know what the percentage attendance at our schools is since they've been back in September?
Chairman, you're on mute.
Sorry, Mark.
That's fine.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Chairman. I'm happy if the committee agrees to go away and find out the answers to those. But Councillor Riley has a comment as well.
Yeah, Councillor Riley.
I seem to recall, in relation to Mr. Little's question about attendance, that the Cabinet Member for Education and Schools, which is not an official title, but you know who I mean, told us either at a council meeting or I heard it at Cabinet that attendance had been high and good and better than expected, and I'm sure that we've heard that since the schools have gone back.
Yeah, well, I'm fine. Thank you very much for that. If you can find an update, Mark, I don't think it should be such a thing, and obviously this is a moving problem, so things are going to change on a daily basis. So if those questions, everybody's happy with those questions be asked, then we can move on.
I can't see any more questions, Chairman, so yes.
Thank you. Item 6, response to government consultation, changes to the planning system. Again, this is for noting, isn't it, Mark?
Chairman, this is the council agreeing its robust response to the government's planning changes. So yeah, and Councillor Curling would like to say something on it.
Yeah, Peter, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's really more of a political comment, I suppose, in that after spending a great deal of the time in Cabinet criticising the Mayor for London, we seem to be agreeing with the Mayor for London and his London plan rather than the Conservative government. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we deserved that after some comments earlier. Yeah, I do, but even some of his London plan is a bit. That was another argument for another day. I think we've surpassed this for something even more crazier. So we'll move on that. Anybody else got anything on this? No. Okay. Item 7. Proposed changes to administrative criteria for community schools.
Mr. Little, Chairman.
Mr. Little.
Thank you, Chairman. On page 54, paragraph 16, it talks about a social reason for somebody to attend a particular school. Is it possible to get any idea of the practical social reasons that might exist beyond the psychological one that was in the old conditions?
Yeah, I don't think I'm led to believe that this is meant to be going to a POC or is going to be reviewed. Is that true, Mark, or have I got that one wrong as well?
Yeah, Chairman. This I believe has been scheduled as part of the work programme for the Residents' Education Environmental Services Policy Overview Committee. It's going out for consultation, so it will come to that committee for detailed scrutiny and views to be fed in before it comes back to Cabinet. So that may be a better opportunity to you'll have the officers there then. Yeah,
I think is that okay, Mr. Little, Tony? It's because you'd have more of a, instead of asking questions when it's going to be sort of debated in those meetings.
I'm happy to accept it if that's the case. I'm just interested in the practicalities of what this change implies.
If it doesn't come in the pot, then let us know. And obviously, this is going to come back to us anyway. We can pick it up then.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Councillor
Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just particularly the table at the top of page 57, where Ruislip Gardens is showing as sort of well below its pan, and the pan numbers changing. Just a general question, really, that a lot of these schools where the pan is changing and they don't have sufficient pupil numbers, they seem to be fairly close to other schools that have recently been expanded. Has something gone wrong in our calculation somewhere where we've expanded some schools to the detriment of other schools in the same area?
That's a good question, but I mean, I remember, as you do, when it first came out, that when we saw the figures, they were frightening. And but I think the trouble with children is they grow up. So I don't know. We can find out for you, Peter. I don't see it's really a problem. Has anybody else got a problem with that? No? Okay. Anybody else?
No, Chairman, I can't see any other speakers.
Thank you. Great. Okay. 8 is statement of license and policy for consultation. Again, this is going out to consultation. Does anybody have anything on this, or can it all wait till it gets to the POC?
Chairman, I can't see any speakers.
I think Mr. Little.
Well, Mr. Little, did you indicate? No. But just for members' clarification, again, this is going to the Licensing Committee and also, again, to Councillor Bridges' Policy Overview Committee, the Residents' Education and Environmental Services, POC, as part of the consultation process. So there'll be opportunities then to ask further questions to the officers on this.
Yes, and Mr. Bridges Councillor Bridges will know all the answers. Next one is item 9, Transport to London Local Implementary Plan Annual Spending Submission. It's quite straightforward. I'd be very surprised if anybody's got a question on this one, but I will open it to the floor. No?
No, Chairman.
Thank you. 10 is the Borough-wide Public Space Protection Order 2020. Yes, I thought Peter might come back on this one. Come on, Peter.
Yes, it's about the dogs. It's a paragraph that I've read over and over again, and I can't get my head around it. And I'm sure.
Can you let us all share the paragraph?
Yeah, it's oh gosh, what's the page number? It's paragraph little x little I. It's prohibition. It says having more than 4 dogs in a person's sole charge for non-commercial purposes, and having more than 6 dogs. I mean, I think what it's trying to get at is that the intention is for all commercial dog walkers to have a license with no more than 6. But page 102, thank you, Mark. But it just doesn't seem to make sense to me. It's a bit like a tongue twister.
It's a bit of a dog's dinner, I think is the idea.
A bit of a dog's dinner, yeah. I mean, is it possible to have it rephrased in plain English so that it is understandable?
Yeah, and a lot of authorities do this anyway, but yeah, I agree with you. It needs to be a little bit thin. Can we make a note of that, Mark?
Well, Chairman, may I comment on that? If you members look at page 89 of the report, the 3rd paragraph, you'll see a response was received as part of the consultation on that condition around dogs, and so it has been raised, but officers have taken this to legal services, and the wording has been found to be fine in terms of cases that have been brought before it. So
it's legal.
Yeah, the phrasing is legally sound according to what it says in the report here. So we can't amend the wording unless we go out for fresh consultation on that. So we'd have to go out for fresh.
I'm happy with that if it's legally sound. I think you would, Councillor Curling, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I mean, if we've got any notices or anything for public consumption, I think they need to be in.
Yeah.
I mean, if it has to have that wording for the legal
No. I think,
legalities, fine. But I challenge anyone to actually understand what it says, because it seems to mean the opposite of what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah, it's very confusing. I mean, even if I'm sure that if we have public signs, they'll be a little bit more easily understood, I think is the right word.
Councillor Riley, Chairman.
Yeah, Councillor Riley.
Paragraph 11 deals with a difference between non-commercial and commercial reasoning. That's the distinction. Yeah. So if a person has more than 4 dogs in their sole charge, in other words, it's just them that's dealing with it, for non-commercial purposes, then there's a problem. They either commit an offence or shouldn't do it. And if you've got more than 6 dogs, again, in your sole charge for commercial purposes without a licence, then you're also infringing things. So it's the distinction between commercial and non-commercial, and equating numbers with those 2 different roles.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. If only if you'd written the report.
If only we had a decent lawyer on the panel, eh?
Yeah, thank you very much. Great. Right, I'm leaving that one. We're off. Number 11, considering of setting a licensed deficit budget 2020-21 for the maintained schools in the borough.
Councillor Prince, Chairman. Councillor
Prince, please.
In regards to Oak Farm Junior School, it talks about due to some exceptional costs in year. Do we have any idea what these exceptional costs are?
Nope.
Or what caused them? Sorry.
Right, Mark. Do you have any idea, Mark?
Chairman, it's something we can the committee can go away and we can find out.
Yeah, we can find out for you. That's not a problem. Anything else, Councillor Prince?
Not for this part, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Little, and then Councillor Curling.
Okay. Mr. Little.
Yes, sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Yes, two questions. One is, for these schools, they will have incurred additional expenditure because of COVID. And from my experience as a governor elsewhere, the government is not exactly fast in reimbursing schools for such expenditure. How are these schools with a licensed deficit or expected deficit able to fund that in cash flow terms? That was my first question. And the second one is this report and the earlier one on the admission criteria indicates that school budgets are under pressure. Do we have an estimate as to how many schools might be in deficit by the end of this coming year?
Okay, on the first point, we can find out. On the second point, I'm led to believe these schools are in deficit because of the numbers not adding correctly of students to the rota. Have you got anything else, Mark, on this?
Again, this is something that could be sought from officers, and I can come back to the committee on particularly the first part about whether COVID's had an impact on these schools' budgets and the deficits as a result.
Yeah. If I could just add, Chairman, that the budget pressures are not only because of differing numbers, and I can see the problem with those particular schools and the odd balances of the numbers, but also because the funding that has gone into the school grant hasn't kept pace with the inflation that the government has suggested is applied to salaries.
Okay, that's a fair point. I really couldn't comment on that, but we're going to ask those questions for you, Tony, and we'll come back to you next time. Okay, anybody else? Oh, yeah, sorry, Councillor Curling.
Thank you, Chairman. Just sort of relating this to my previous point on the school places, really, particularly in the case of BWI, where the budget deficit seems to be linked with the reduce in numbers and the PAN reducing from 60 to 30. I mean, is this not partly due to the council's own actions in expanding schools within that area?
I couldn't agree with that, because at the end of the day, every child has got a place in the school, so that's what this is all about. There is always going to be a change, but is anybody? What's the question you want me to ask, Councillor Kelly?
Well, the question, I suppose, it's part of the original question, in that were there perhaps overestimations of the school places that were needed? I
can't remember off the top of my head, but I know that it was very extensive how it was calculated what spaces were needed, and it was more of a government thing than it was anything else. But I can, we'll ask the other question first, Peter, and then we'll see what happens with that, and then we'll go from there. I think it'd be best. Yeah. Has anybody else got anything?
I can't see anyone, Chairman.
Okay, lovely. Highlight of the evening, item 12, monthly council budgeting report, monitoring thing. Has anybody got anything on here? Councillor Curling, I can see you.
And Mr. Little as well.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Prince as well after that.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, first of all, I would just like to congratulate the council in getting the Tarshan Daniel award on the agenda so quickly, particularly after the motion to full council a couple of weeks ago. So it's very welcome to see that there.
Brilliant.
I've got a question on Ruislip High School on paragraph 173. Paragraph 173, it says that there's an additional expenditure being asked by Ruislip High School of £277,000, but it doesn't actually say what that expenditure is for.
We'll get that. We'll find that for clarification. No problem at all. Anything else?
Not at the moment, thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Next was Mr. Little.
Thank you, Chairman. Two questions. One relates to recommendation 15 on page 126.
Everybody, sorry to interrupt. Can everybody, if they're going to tell us, because we all have to find the pages. So if you can tell us the paragraph and the page, then we can all sort of get there all at the same time.
Page 126, right at the bottom of the page. It talks about accepting a grant for well-being for education. Is it possible to know the basis on which this grant will be distributed, or what the criteria for applying for it are going to be?
Yeah, I think we can find that out for you.
And my second question relates to page 139. If I can get there myself.
Yeah. Peter.
Yeah, paragraph 48, the old bugbear of the increased expenditure on special needs. In the paragraph, it talks about a current backlog of cases and growth of SEN2 data being 17.5% for Hillingdon versus 8.7% nationally. Given the increases that we have seen over the last few years, the really quite substantial increases in the expenditure on this item, is it possible to know why the expenditure in our area is growing at such a rapid rate compared to the average for the country?
Yeah, because we support we don't have, there's not there's not a threshold of funding available. If whatever's needed as authority, we try to, for the child, we try and do that. Also, so they will travel to other schools outside of the borough, which we've had that conversation before. Also, the good news is that we're going to be building a new school for this. We plastered it on planning a couple of months ago, or last month. So this hopefully in the future will come. These figures will come down anyway. But I can find some of that information out for you.
Yes, if I may, Chairman, the figure of 17.5% seems to be linked to the numbers of children rather than the amount per head, which I understand the point made about sending them out being more expensive than keeping them in. But if it does relate to the numbers of children, it seems odd that we are having such a rapid growth in the number of children who are qualifying for these plans. And it would be sensible, if that is the case, that we get an explanation.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that. Is that, Mark? Because that shouldn't be a problem, should it?
Chairman, happy to go away and research and find out more on that.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Mr. Little? No?
No.
Okay. Councillor Prince.
My first question was exactly what Mr. Little asked. So see we're on the same page. And then the next one was paragraph 131 on the next page, which talks about a continuing lack of capacity in borough. And you've kind of touched upon it just then, but my question essentially is, what are the council doing to address this continuing lack of capacity? Because if it's not addressed,
as I said, there's a planning application. I can find out, get Mark to find out for you. There's a planning aspect which we passed for a new school to be built to help this situation. So that hopefully will alleviate some of the problems in the borough.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? Mark, I can't see everybody, so.
No, Chairman, I can't see anyone else.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so item 13, the school capital programme update. Mr. Little, I would have thought, would have a question. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. In the report on page 188, and again this relates to special needs, the paragraph talks about a provision, an SEND provision capital plan for the use of the allocated capital spending, which was published on the 31st of May 2019. Would it be possible to have a copy of that and any additions that might have been made subsequently?
Mark?
Mr. Little, what paragraph or whereabouts is it?
Well, it's not numbered. It's the second paragraph down on page 188. And it's the final sentence.
The SEND provision capital plan. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can go away and see if that's a document that can be circulated, if not publicly, certainly to the committee members. And
that'd be great.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Anything else? Anybody?
No, Chairman, I can't see anyone there.
Okay. Obviously, the highlight of the evening, item 14, the quarterly planning obligation monitoring report. If one committee member ever asked me a question on this, I'd be flabbergasted, but obviously nothing as usual. I'll say thank you very much, everybody, and good night and be safe.
Well, Chairman, just if members could hold on for a few minutes while I switch the feed off and we move to part 2 of the meeting.